Happy holidays. Hey, welcome to Monday edition here, a pre-Christmas edition, pre-holiday edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForrest. Hope you guys cleaned up over the weekend. There is nothing more enjoyable and more necessary sometimes than making a nice score right before on a gambling venture, right before the holiday season. Now, being the prince of procrastination, I, of course, have bought nothing so far. And unfortunately, I used what would be close to the last of my discretionary dollars betting slow horses at the fairgrounds at a simulcasting facility here near my home in South Florida. Local casino. The wife also got buried on the slot machines. The free play didn't work out. Dipped into her pocket for several more sticks. And the next thing you know, you're empty for the holidays. So we're going to try and help you make a score here over the next couple of days. And then we won't be with you on Wednesday or Thursday of this week. And a wild weekend, of course. We duped ourselves into thinking that the underdogs had a shot in the college football playoffs, not anticipating for 1 second the ultimate blowouts that would occur virtually across the board. We were on one of them with the professor, the Penn State SMU game. And many people, and the people started crying right away afterwards. Well, geez, Indiana, SMU, they didn't belong there. You were hearing that from those muskrat eating, roadkill stomping people in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and then I guess the University of Miami, the Sunshine State here, a little upset, starting to assert the proposition that, well, the Hurricanes would have done better than either Indiana or SMU. Okay, so they had the floor mopped with those two schools, but going in, there were people that actually believed, and Tennessee also got stomped on like a grape. But there were people who believed that Tennessee had a shot to win that game outright. Is Paul Feinbaum the SEC shill? Is he in hiding right now? Might be. All right, we're going to bring in Mike Jones to join us here on this Monday and try and decipher a few things. There are many things to talk about. If you are betting, and let's face it, you should be betting your brains out. Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, which is a thing that Mike Jones, you would figure, geezers at Caesars like us, we would be involved in this new thing, the Gen X, Triple X, where you're betting on every snap of the football. But Mike Jones, a big proponent of that. He's doing well, cleaning up. Anyway, they have all the in-game live betting that you could possibly care for. The largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, the NHL, UFC. You could have bet that Usyk Tyson Fury fight and picked up a little bit of a price. No, I guess Usyk went off the favorite in that. Head to Bet Online today, and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. That's all caps. You know, as if you were screaming at somebody in a text. But this case, you're screaming for your bonus, which they're going to pay you. If you use that promo code, your welcome bonus comes in on your first deposit. Bet Online. The game starts here. Michael Jones, hey, thank you. I realized earlier this morning, like probably too early for anybody to want me to contact them, that we weren't going to be doing Bury Your Bookie on your usual day when you appear with us on a Thursday. And so I'm thinking, do I really want to yak about all of these different things and start crying about losses that I incurred over the weekend? When I could talk to Mike Jones, and uplifting experience here. We need a springboard. I don't know. I'm sure at some point in your gambling degenerate life, Mike, like me, you actually made like a big score right before the holidays. Has that happened in your lifetime?
Yeah, bowl games when they were real, I did. Yeah, it's a really lot of fun betting money lines out west and having one where I remember where if Auburn had ended up beating Florida State, it would have been like a $50,000 win for me off a
Woo!
$200 ticket. And then I bet the halftime Florida State against Auburn in a championship game, and they're down 11, and they were laying 8 and a half time and went and hedged out and still made a good score. Just one of those things that this is a great time of year for that. A lot of games every day, day night. So you just got to find advantage. Fortunately, the games aren't as honest as they were. Players are in and out. You got to keep an eye on it. So it's a lot more handicapping than, really having to know what teams are really focused and not at this time for college. The pros are exciting. Yesterday you get, 5-0 last 2 weeks ago with the teams that were eliminated again, losing all the time. Yesterday they showed up a little bit. You had the Patriots that, to help me out a little bit, against Buffalo, hanging in there with a late touchdown. And then, you had Washington popping Philly a little bit. That looked like that game was.
Oh man, that game was sugar. It went back and forth.
Yeah.
You needed. It was very much like the sport, and we've mentioned this a few times on Bury Your Bookie over the last 6 months we've been on. and very much like rooting in a highlight point or a bet because and that's where I made my pre-holiday score that I remember. A buddy of mine and I hit the try super on the last two games at Dania Highlight. We're the only two people left in the joint, and we were hoping to get our free meal, our meal comp there in the restaurant as a member of the media. And if that didn't happen, I don't know that we were going to be able to pay for this. And then all of a sudden, we take down this major pool. And I think, for a highlight pool, it was huge. It was like 10 dimes or something. And we each ended up with 5,000 right before Christmas. It was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I mean, that game with the Eagles that you mentioned, you need a miracle. The Eagles are in a position to win the game late, but they're not going to cover the 4-point spread. Next thing you know, ball gets tipped. It sails into the hands of an Eagle defender. He brings it back into field goal range. They don't go anywhere, but they're up 5 points now, covering the point spread and forcing Washington to go the distance and get a touchdown, which you're thinking most defenses should prevail in this spot,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah, you think it, but the prevent is prevent the win, as the old Jimmy the Greek used to say.
Yes.
Like that was one of these old things. But what happens is you just give too much cushion. You're worried about having something going behind you, and you
Send
don't
the
worry.
fucking house on
Yeah,
Dan on that play.
yeah. I mean, I like this. I was with a gentleman who played football at FAU. He was an offensive lineman, and we were talking about the quarterback position in the league and how it relates to gambling and all that. And I've always been a huge Jaden Daniel fan, watching him a little bit at Arizona State and when he came to LSU.
Yeah.
And I think he won the Rookie of the Year yesterday. I think he, turning it over as much as they did, and yet coming back and showing resiliency and getting a win against their division rival and leader in division, probably knocking Philly out of the first seed. Yeah, I mean, it was just something to watch. I mean, it was good that we had a couple of games that were okay. But my Baltimore was good, and my Tampa last night, you could see early on. You can get a feel in these live bets. I took Dallas plus 2.5 live, not as like a hedge, but realizing I had my money on Tampa, and then just saying, okay.
Everybody loved Tampa in that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, but you looked at it, you could see it right away that Dallas was showing up. They're winning at the line of scrimmage with two new offensive linemen, and you just wonder. So I think the live betting does help.
10, you're sitting there thinking, you're getting 4, but they go up 10 right away.
Right.
And you're thinking, just like in the New England game, which you had to sweat out another series of miracles in that one to come back in and cover the spread, but you're up 14 to fucking nothing, and you're getting 14, whatever it was. Yeah. It's kind of like tonight. We'll get into that, but all right. So everybody was trying to figure out a way to make these games close, these college football playoff games.
Yeah,
I know you were heavily.
I was with you. I thought the lines were too extended. I thought the pressure would be on the home teams. I think the weather might have something to do with it with Tennessee and SMU. I have a very good friend who was a huge Tennessee booster that gave no excuses, felt that they got outmanned, felt that they got whipped, that Ohio State showed up. Maybe we thought as a handicapper, we misinterpreted they were quitting after the Michigan game. We listened to the rhetoric and looked like they were focused behind Ryan Day and showed up. Yes. And the really crazy part about all this, and what I really don't like about the way this is set up, now you have Ohio State actually a favorite over the number 1 team in the country. Yes. Where is that matchup, and why is that happening? So to me, I kind of like Ohio State on a neutral field in this game at quick glance. But Penn State and Texas deserve the easier game than Georgia and Oregon? That's where I think they're going to have to come back and maybe a reseeding, give the conference champ a bye, but maybe reseed it after the first round of games. They're going to come up with something because the heat's going to be on.
I got some pushback on this notion on another show that I was doing earlier this morning. And I compare the way they've always ranked college football teams, college basketball teams to a lesser extent, because you have more head-to-head competition among the top guns, and they play each other. And then it's like trying to rate horses that come in from different tracks for the Saratoga meet. How much credibility do you give to some animal that's coming in from Presque Isle Downs, who looked sensational over a horse that's shipping in from Santa Anita?
Yeah.
And, has Todd Pletcher, putting the saddle on, and, for Mike Rapoli. And you're thinking, that these other horses are of better quality. So, I mean, we saw some of that in the way these games were being handicapped. I didn't think it would be the shellacking it was across the board. And, with James Franklin, we threw in the Franklin theory. Oh, geez, he always chokes in big games. Hardly the case. I mean, I couldn't have been any more wrong about the way things turned.
Well, I can tell you this. What I thought was very, very interesting was you watch the Indiana Notre Dame game Friday. Ooh, maybe Indiana doesn't belong. Notre Dame looks good, 27-3. An onside kick late is what gets that even remotely close. Then you have the first game when you're watching all of a sudden that SMU's down 28-0 at the half. Immediately I start hearing Ohio State's going to beat Tennessee. Immediately everybody changes their routine for what they see and say, maybe the favorites and the home field advantage does matter more. So I would love to sit and talk to some real guys who were that heavy degenerate type gambler to see who changed. Because I know guys who got off Tennessee and went to Ohio State because of what they watched in the previous 3 games. And I think it gave us an indication. I think the bookies must have gotten clobbered, because the public will bet the over and the favorite in these games. They had the 2 NFL games Saturday, one of which I was on Baltimore, which I thought they would win that game and won handily. It just that was a really rough day. If you're watching at home, you're saying, let me just take the teams to win that should win, and they do.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be sort of a chalk fest in terms of money line bets in the NFL yesterday. Point spread's always suspect, as we know, and there were many games that came down to the wire there, and some exciting finishes also.
Yeah.
A lot to be decided. I love this. I was watching a coaches show yesterday here in Miami, here in Fort Lauderdale, where we originate from, and it's the Mike McDaniel show. Okay, so McDaniel's somewhat on the hot seat, although I don't think they've really turned on even the first level of burner heat yet, because I believe the guy's coming back to coach the Miami Dolphins next year. He's going to probably end up. They win their last 2 games on what? A 3-game winning streak and 9-8, just missing the playoffs. So they had the Tua injury, all of this other bullshit they'll come up with. So I don't think they're getting rid of this guy. I don't want them to either, because he started out as kind of a strange cat in the way that he approached his conversations with the media. And anytime he was speaking publicly, you were like, who the fuck is this guy?
Right.
You thought it was like Nietzsche meets Lombardi.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he's now, I mean, I have no idea what the guy's talking about. Before, at least, it was somewhat you're thinking, okay, this is some kind of intellectual guy, came from Shanahan's coaching tree, and he's running all these wild plays with motion on top of motion. And it was a nice high wire act until what happens in the NFL. People always figure it out. So now he's scrambling like Fran Tarkenton. And it's funny. I'm watching his coach's show, and how do you treat the guy? He just got annihilated in his last game. His entire season crushed, and they're like,
Right.
"Well, Mike, what positives did you take away from that ball game?" But somehow, I mean, and the people are agonizing over this, Mike. I don't know how much of this you do as a fan of the Giants. I guess.
Yeah, I look at
eliminated in August, but
do you look at the injuries? The tackles were out for a while, also for the Dolphins. They don't have Bradley Chubb. I mean, you're getting into where the roster is. We all look at teams and think, oh, we got this quarterback, we're paying this guy. We got Tyreek Hill, and we got Jalen Waddle, and we got 2 backs that can run. Yeah, all well and great. The game's about the trenches, even more so. You're seeing it the Lions and the Bills. The Bills, to me, yesterday showed me more in a 3-point win over New England than I watched them all year. I was watching that game for, ulterior motive reasons. And it was like, I'm sitting there watching, going, they had 9 shots in New England to cover the teasers inside of a couple minutes. And every play, they're blowing up the line. It's like Buffalo's got players. They're well coached. They're going to be a really, really tough out because of Allen. This is what you got to watch. Who are the teams that are really motivated? And I just think the injury bug, you get in the locker room, being there, and have been there, your best players get hurt. There's no lifting up when your leaders aren't in there. The Giants situation is as such. On defense, we've lost our leadership. Dexter Lawrence is out. Bobby Okereke is out. You watch Atlanta with a rookie quarterback moving the ball up and down the field, and you just see that they're not taking shots at people. There's not that aggression. Yeah. Guys are getting hurt. It's just there's a mindset to this game that I think you really, when you're handicapping, have to bring into account when you're making your moves, because it's, to me, that's what I see. And Miami, to me, can win any game, because if they get going and Hill gets loose, they're a threat. And I like the way they played yesterday against San Francisco, a team that, again, going through injuries most of the year, but a team that's got some real decisions to make with Brock Purdy, and they have like 7 players making over $20 million. So what's going to happen with the 49ers moving forward? But these are all teams, as bad as my Giants are, and how below our expectations were. Look at Miami, the Jets, the 49ers, the Cowboys, where they're ended up. It's a grind in the NFL, and it's hard. So it's just trying to make these teams better. But I like Miami's situation. They're fun to watch. And I think because of the injury bug, I think you got to give McDaniel another year. And when teams play better when they're out of it, is great coaching, is motivation. And I like the way Miami played yesterday.
Yeah, people are agonizing though over their playoff chances, and I guess they were calculated at 3.7%. They need the following: they have to win their last two games, which certainly appears to be a distinct possibility. They have Cleveland on the road, who sucks, and the New York Jets, who we don't know where they're going to be at going into that final game. I would imagine they would like to derail any chance that Miami had of going to the postseason, but who the hell knows? They might have checked out after last week's game. And then they need a series of miracles. They need the Chargers to lose to the Patriots and the Raiders. They need two of the following three. The Chargers to lose to the Patriots and the Raiders. Unlikely to happen there. Would you agree? Unlikely to lose both of those. The Broncos to lose versus the Bengals or the Chiefs.
Possible.
Okay, and then the Colts would have to lose. Oh no, the Browns would have to lose to both the Bengals and the Chiefs. Possible. Although the Chiefs' last game could be a meaningless game.
Yeah.
Holmes on the
bench.
What
are the Browns knock out? Oh, okay. So you're saying the Browns. Oh, the Bengals on the
Broncos. They would knock the Dolphins out or be part of the equation there.
The Broncos situation is so interesting to me because when I get those brutal losses, they say they linger worse than the great wins. And the Colts game a couple weeks ago, the Colts got the Giants this week. They would be tied with Denver with a win if that guy doesn't fumble the ball at the 1 yard line. Inches it's about. And when they're going to look back at this, that's why I'm worried for my team this week because I don't really care about the first pick. I like to win games. But that line opened 6.5 and went to 7.5. So I'll be on the Colts this week because the Giants can't stop the run. And I think the Colts are a little bit motivated after what happened to them in Denver. They looked good yesterday. Gave them touchdowns late.
Taylor had like 400 yards. I mean, it was ridiculous. He looked like Jim Brown.
Right.
Fucking ball game. It was great. All right. So an interesting weekend all the way around.
Sure.
I did get a kick out of doing this coaches show with Mike McDaniel because he's like Professor Irwin Corey now. I mean, I don't know if you remember that cat, but would just butcher the language deliberately, and it was fantastic, very entertaining, and he's sort of morphing into that character. And yet, I mean, I remember doing a bunch of these shows in my lifetime where, you're talking to a guy after yet another series of brutal losses. And you have to, like Tom Rinaldi when he's interviewing Tiger Woods, trying to extract a positive out of it. Tiger's got like stitches on his eyeball from where Elin hit him with a 9-iron. He's half crippled. He's walking around like Quasimodo. He just shot an 86 to finish 2 shots behind Monty. And Rinaldi would come with the interview and go, "Oh, Tiger." And I like Rinaldi. He's a good guy. But, this was ridiculous shilling for, obviously a guy that didn't want to say anything that was relevant to the truth. And Dr. Gali would be in the background, a shadowy figure leaving Tiger's backyard in like an outfit that OJ wore when he, whacked 2 people. And he would say, "Tiger, what positives do you take away from this round today?" Tiger, he would actually respond to this ridiculousness. And that's how it was with this coach's show yesterday. It was great. He's diagramming a play, and you would think that Chop Robinson was going to be the rookie of the year if you watch this thing. I love when the home team bias creeps in for a team that was 6-8, and probably because of these bizarre conditions that have to all happen. Not impossible, but most people have already just written off any chance that the Miami Dolphins will make the postseason in spite of maybe winning their last couple of games. All right, so we have the matchups now, Mike Jones. I don't know if you want to get into this for next week.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, and you lead it off with the Fiesta Bowl. You have Penn State, and they're laying 10.5 to Boise State. I did mention this. That there was this fetching and screaming about, "Oh, well, geez, the conference champion shouldn't get an automatic bid or whatever." And then, teams now are complaining that they should have been in there instead of, especially Indiana and maybe SMU, of course, getting shellacked like they did. I don't know about that. I mean, is Boise State to be discredited to the point where they come into the category essentially by this line? I know Penn State looks sensational in their win over SMU, but are they pretty much the odds makers telling us that Boise State is a Fugazi team all the way? And what do you think about that matchup?
I think that matchup is based on what they saw this week in Penn State. I mean,
okay, yeah, I mean, they look great.
SMU goes off a 9.5 point favorite on the road at Penn State. would SMU and Boise State be a pick'em game on a neutral field? Maybe Boise State might even get a number on them. I don't know. Maybe just because SMU plays in a better conference. I like what Boise State's done. They were competitive against Oregon. I don't know if they're going to be competitive in this particular game, but I think the number is probably right. Last week, again, like we talked about it, we were off on the numbers thinking that the home field didn't mean as much. It obviously did. But this game is going to be played a little west. It should be in better conditions. Might even help Penn State in this instance. I love Ashanti, the running back. I think he's as good a player. I think he should be a top 15 pick in the draft. He's tough to bring down. Penn State better bring the lumber, and they should. They will. They got the better players. So I'd say the number's about right. I don't know if I'm jumping on either side of this real quick, but would I be surprised if Boise beat them? Probably. But I see the number being correct.
All right. 10 on a hook there. Opening line, at least the one I saw, with Penn State, Boise State. Peach Bowl, there you go down to the old Peach Bowl. And Texas and ASU also being treated as if they were a patsy. And one of those teams that, definitely created the argument about others being more deserving of being in the playoff hunt.
Well, I have a friend of mine who's, works at Oklahoma State and is an assistant athletic director. He gets into the Big 12 meetings. This is a big game for the Big 12 for their respect factor. The only team that's in the tournament. They're a 14-point dog. Arizona State predicted last, wins the conference, wins the tournament, played well all year. Deserving of the spot, I think, more so than the other teams. But I hope they show up for the sake of the committee's sake, and I hope for the ideas of the tournament going forward. I don't know that I probably would lay the money with Texas, just what I see. Texas got players and the wide receivers out for Arizona State still. They're going to bail out on a run. I know Scotabo is fantastic. I love watching him play. I just can't see Texas losing this game.
Weird, too, that a team in any kind of tournament format, any sport for that matter, that received a bye in the opening round would be, and in this case, 2 in a row, two very heavy double-digit underdogs were the teams that were seeded into the second round of the tournament. All right, the Sugar Bowl, Georgia and Notre Dame, and a very interesting matchup, no doubt about it. Carson Beck out of the ball game. Backup quarterback looks to be a bit of a schmuck there for Georgia, tough to justify. Nothing disparaging about the kid himself, but as a replacement, he doesn't seem to be anywhere near the same caliber in terms of being able to operate that team's offense. Notre Dame looking good. I mean, their one loss, Northern Illinois, you can look at that and kind of try to suppress your laughter, but if you hate Notre Dame like I do. But Rudy was offsides, Mike. You know that's Mike.
Yeah, he was.
Where's the flag?
That's great.
Where's the flag?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So that being said, though, I do have respect for what they've achieved ever since. I mean, to peel yourself off the mat, as we like to say, and then come back and rattle off whatever it is now, 9-10 wins in a row. All very impressive victories, including opening round of the tournament against an Indiana team that people gave a shot to win the game. And they handled them very easily. So Georgia favored by 1 and a hook in that ball game. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, now we're getting to the games I like. I kind of like being an SEC guy, being in the South. I think Georgia, Kirby Smart can walk into that locker room and say, "Can you imagine Notre Dame's favored over us?" This is where I use the point spread as a motivation tool in my team. We just won the SEC. They haven't played anybody. They just beat a team that everybody thinks shouldn't be in there, and they're favored over us. Let's go knock them in the mouth. And I think Georgia is going to show Notre Dame a little bit more physical part of football. We're not going to see. And I think the backup quarterback may help. Beck hasn't been that impressive, top 2 or 3 pick. Now I see he's a 3rd-round choice coming out. He's hurt. I don't mind with the kids are all, high school All-American that they have here. These great teams recruit 2 and 3 quarterbacks. This kid's a little bit more mobile, might run the ball. It looked a little bit impressed at times. Now he's had a month to prepare as a starter. I don't know. I took Georgia at a front line getting a 1.5, and now getting a 1.5. They were getting a 1.5, and now they're laying a 1.5. So to me, I look at it like pick 'em game, whatever. I'll take my chances with Georgia in this game just for the better athletes.
Those big corn-fed beefers up front, huh?
Yeah.
Got to show that finesse team from Notre Dame a thing or two.
Yeah, it's just this is what the SEC is made of. They're going to be able to say that we step up for Tennessee.
Yeah.
You hear that chant. All the chant that you hear about a conference, then you hear that chant all over.
Although
so let's
Paul
see.
Feinbaum is in hiding, I think, somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you need
Yeah,
a search warrant to find this guy after a couple of
yeah,
embarrassments there for the
yeah.
SEC in the
He,
postseason.
he
All
doesn't
right, and they Rose Bowl.
doesn't have Nick Saban's back to lean on anymore. So now you see how the SEC's kind of changed. But yeah, I kind of like Georgia in the spot.
And I always loved attending the Rose Bowl. I've attended many Rose Bowl games when I was a reporter out in California doing some sports writing right in the area there. And of course, proximity to Santa Anita made it a frequent stop on the tour. But yeah, Ohio State and Oregon. And surprisingly, now Oregon's got an outright win over Ohio State, albeit on their home field, if I'm not mistaken. And Ohio State looked great in their complete dismantling of Tennessee. I mean, I couldn't believe how sharp they looked in this game after coming out of that dreadful performance where Ryan Day decides, hey, guess what? I've got the best receivers in all of college football, maybe of all time.
Right.
So let's run the ball up the middle against these clowns. It's the only thing they can stop.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, should there not have been an investigation into that game? How is Ryan Day? David Portnoy was flying a plane over the stadium. Extend Ryan Day because he's a Michigan guy.
Yeah.
See this guy stick around for fucking ever. But okay, should they be favored over Oregon, number one team, undefeated, only undefeated team in the country, in the fabled Rose Bowl game that is going to decide who moves to the next round?
Yeah. I thought if I remember right, Ohio State was a 3.5-point favorite at Oregon.
Three and a hook.
Yeah, you take no. They were 3.5 at Oregon earlier in the year. So
Oh,
now
okay.
you're bringing it down now and saying Ohio State's 1. I think is that what the number is? 1.5.
I saw 3 and a hook on this game.
Ohio State's 3.5 now.
3 and a hook. Yeah.
Okay, so that was the line what it was. I saw 1.5 early, and I liked it then. 3.5 is interesting. So now you got the number one team in the country, legit number one, proved it on the field all year as an underdog by the A seed in the tournament. So there it tells you what Vegas thinks. I don't know that I'd like 3.5. I liked it at 1. Probably would have to think harder now because I do like Oregon's team. I think they match up okay. They won a game. But, I loved the way Ohio State played Saturday night. Couldn't stop watching the run in the passing game, getting the ball to Smith. I don't understand why he doesn't get 15 targets a game. I think I put him in the level of Larry Fitzgerald as the best wide receiver I saw play in college. This kid's got great hands, seems a way to get open, tall, big. I mean, he's a star. I mean, he's going to be – I'm hearing that he could be the first pick in the draft when he comes out in 2 years. So,
Wow.
this kid is really that good. And, when you have a star like that, it helps in these big games when there's one guy that's better. Go back and look at the history. Cam Newton to run in a championship. I saw Cam Newton live. He was the best college football player I ever seen live. So you have a star. So maybe this star steps up and makes the plays in a big game. I think you saw that he did this past weekend. And I can't bet. Boy, I'll tell you that I thought the line was lower. I thought it was under 3. I think 3.5 is probably where you're going to get mixed action. You're going to see some Oregon people come in. But yeah, that's an amazing line. 3.5 for an 8 seed against a 1 seed. That'll tell you all you need to know about where the odds makers are talking there.
Very bizarre. Yeah. I mean, you're literally looking at the seeded teams, the teams that had the bye, the higher seed teams, essentially all being underdogs.
Yeah.
Except for Georgia, which is a 1.5-point favoritism. So very, very, very strange the way that this thing shook out.
They're going to figure it out. I think this, they did the right thing given the
it's okay. It's exciting stuff for the most part.
I mean, you just hope the games are competitive. But Pat Ford, I saw him on X, and he was bringing up a great point where they were hammering all these games, and he went out and said, "Do you remember Oregon and Florida State? Do you remember Alabama beating Michigan State and Washington 31-0, 40-7?" There were a lot of blowouts early on in this tournament when they had the semifinal games, and thank God we got good games in the finals throughout the years. But people were making these same complaints, so let the system work its way out. My thing is let it be 16 teams, and then really, if you're 17, you probably don't really believe you belong there. But I think
saying that about some of these other temes that we saw the weekend too. All right, a couple of things I want to get to real quickly. I don't know if you have a thought, Mike Jones. Tonight's ball game, I've been handed the Saints getting 14 points by my buddy who I'm booking personally.
Sure.
I wouldn't think I would have much of a chance there, although we know that double-digit dogs in the NFL usually are okay the majority of the time, like 60-something%.
Yeah, double-digit dogs are like 20 over 500 since 2005. So you do get the chance.
Well, that's a long time to nurse a 20.
Yes, and the hard thing is it's easier to pull the trigger on a better team. So to pull the Saints out of the hat, you're like, oh, we're going to play in 0-degree weather.
How can they do anything in this game?
Yeah, we got a backup quarterback playing, although we love him as a South Carolina guy. That Rattler's going up there. But he brought him back against Washington. Had a chance to beat him last week with a 2-point
Those
conversion.
guys always end up making one key mistake. Yeah, I mean,
No.
like he did on the 2-point conversion play. Maybe that was just a shitty call because everybody's going to the right there. I mean, what are we looking at? USC back in the day? I don't think so.
Right.
And then
This
throws
might
a
be to
pass
stay
back.
away, but I will give you one game that I'm zeroing in on.
Okay.
And that's tomorrow night, the San Jose State South Florida bowl game. So I've been
very
following
good.
South Florida a little bit. You know, they've been a little bit. They've been good at times. Really bad loss to Rice, but they play very fast. On the other hand, San Jose State Coach Ken going out to Hawaii, back to his roots, where the Hawaii assistants. He recruits out there in Hawaii, so I think he probably wants to go out there and make a showing. I kind of like San Jose State in this game as well as I like because of the pace. The San Jose State total. I think their offense is good enough to put up points here in this game against South Florida. I'm kind of still thinking about the Rice beating I took a few weeks back when South Florida looked like they were getting it together and went out to Rice, played a horrible football team and got beat, let them put up a 40 spot on them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of point total here. I think we're going to see some quick offense. These games are out in Hawaii, good weather, and I think San Jose State prevails.
All right. Now you have a deal there where people can tap into your selections.
Yeah, we're giving them out free on the Big Gunner podcast on Spotify. We're going to have a few guests, including yourself, coming up here in the next month before we go. And, we're Picks for Profits. We give out one game. Well, now we're going to be probably not doing much in the bowls. We'll do a little NFL. Now we're getting into hockey, so we'll be giving out some different sports. For upcoming shows, I'll be giving you a little bit more hockey preview than what you might normally get. We study the hockey pretty closely.
And people can take advantage of that. I'm also working on a book. Going to try and co-author one with Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito.
Yeah.
And it's called From Ragu to Rayo's and Back Again.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, when we're talking sauce with this guy, it's not Gardner. We're talking about...
he's loved in New Jersey. Boy, they love him. I mean, for him to get his...
Likeable guy. You know what? I wish that story would have proliferated itself further.
Yeah. It is nice. And, the thing is that when you watch him and you scout him, you just believe he's where he should be. He's a third string, maybe a second string quarterback with injury. You just...
Practice squad to practice squad.
The heat that the Giants are getting over this, his story is so resonating because the fan base liked him. But they realized that he's not the guy going forward. So it's a very interesting dynamic that did Dable play him because he gave him a vibe? Where did that come from? To me, it had to come above Dable to play him because you don't pay a guy $5 million and have him jump. Then he struggles, he gets hurt. Locke has moments, and then yesterday Locke turns that game around with an interception. So when you're watching this stuff, it's like, where are they paying and how are they doing this? Who's evaluating? And this is where it comes down to. But I'd like to see Tommy on our roster as a third stringer moving forward just because he's a Jersey kid and, that's what the kind of fan base wants. But the Giants need to do a lot more than just think about Ragu and Reynolds and all.
He'll be backing up Kirk Cousins with the Raiders next year.
Yeah, right.
All right, thanks, Mike. Always a pleasure. You have a great holiday. And we'll talk to you again.
You too. Happy holidays, Jeff, and thanks for having me.
All right, thanks a lot. Mike Jones, ladies and gentlemen, here on Bury Your Bookie. We've kind of gone a little into OT, so we're going to wish you guys the best. We will be with you tomorrow. And should feature our good friend Scotty M on the program, who bounced back nicely from whatever it was that was afflicting him, some kind of South Florida flu, and had an okay week. We didn't overwhelm anybody last week with our picks. We were somewhere right there in the middle and victimized by much ugliness, as often happens when you're out there risking your hard-earned capital in a degenerate fashion. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Jeff DeForrest, and that's this morning's edition of Bury Your Bookie.